So there's this book called Surrounded by Idiots that divides people into four types of people. They're like the blues, the greens, the yellows, and the reds. Okay? Picture picture a square and you divide it in four. So now you've got like four squares. One of the axes that divide this square vertically would be task oriented or people oriented, right? So in order to make that division, ask yourself, you have two ways of getting a project finished. Um, one way where it gets to the deadline, and one way where everybody is happy, right? So you can either meet your
Okay.
deadline, and some people in your team are going to be pissed off, or you can have everybody be very happy and nice, and not meet the deadline. So what would you
Mm-hmm.
choose?
Okay, so you're asking me, and I think no grace in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think for everything to work properly in the long time, you need deadlines, but also you need people. No, I'm going with people. Let's say
Okay.
happy people.
All right. So we're going to put you into, you can either be a yellow or you can be a green. Okay. Um,
Okay.
I choose the deadline.
Okay.
For
Okay.
FYI, I choose the deadline. And now horizontally, we're going to divide the space into two. So how much data do you need to make a decision? Like, would you be confident making a decision only knowing 70% of what you could know, or do you want to know more? In
No.
another way to think about this, sorry, you're getting a new computer or a new electronic thingy. Do you read
Mm-hmm.
the instructions manual before you try to
No.
turn it on, or do you turn it
No.
on first?
Directly turn it on.
All right, so you would be a yellow, right? This is the
Okay.
typical profile of, for example, CEOs. These people
Okay.
are attracted to like bright, noble ideas. So if I was to sell you a project, I would probably talk to you about how innovative this project is and how creative it is and how much you wouldn't have to be involved in it. And look, all of our stakeholders are going to be so happy. You're going to make so many people happy, Jose. And that's how I would convince you.
Oh, this is huge. Meaning, I've never heard of that book and that theory. Let's say, and it's awesome. So
Yeah.
awesome.
So this is called
And
a disc profile, and many companies just like test their employees on the disc profile. Um, disc or DISA, people like call it different ways. I recommend you read the book. I recommend everybody read the book and
yeah,
classify your stakeholders using this idea. You have better ideas on how to classify them, but I like asking these two questions. And yeah, use this psychological archetype of your stakeholders to figure out how to best convince them.
at the Inbound podcast, today we have Lidia Infante, international speaker and senior SEO manager at Sanity, former BigCommerce and Rise at 7. We'll talk about women in tech, enterprise SEO with a unique approach on how to get buy-in from stakeholders, and the benefits of using Headless CMS. Hey Lydia, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm all good. How are you?
Doing great. I'm really happy to have you here. A huge fan of yours, so been following you for years.
Thank you. I've been following you too. So this is like a mutual admiration thing.
Oh,
Thank you for
thank
inviting
you.
me here. This is really awesome.
Lydia, there are lots of things that I want to talk with you, that I want to learn from you. But I think the main ideas are we're going to talk about women in tech, we're going to talk about enterprise SEO, and a little bit of Headless CMS, which I know you are an expert. So that's the main idea. Yeah.
Awesome.
Can you tell me a little bit more on about you?
Sure. That's so like I feel like I should have a pitch right now to like where I can introduce myself easily, but I feel like I'm not very good at this. I've been in SEO for about a decade or so. I consider myself mainly a marketer, and I've been in many like different marketing departments, doing many different things. It's going to be, no, it's already been 11 years since I started working in marketing. I got into SEO through like I founded a feminist magazine in Spain, and it was quite a fun adventure. And after that, I started working in international e-commerce, publishing, so and so. When I'm not working or speaking at an event, I'm usually either cross stitching or playing with my cat. I have the cutest cat in the world. Do you want to see it?
Oh, yes,
Do you,
please.
is
Yes,
it okay?
please.
Oh,
Yes,
no.
absolutely.
She ran away. She saw me coming
Oh,
and she was like, "You're not showing me on another
you're
podcast."
not. Yeah, I'm also a cat lover. I have three cats, so huge fan. They're not here, but
Yes.
huge fan. SEO, marketer, psychologist,
Yeah.
speaker. There's no much room for new things. So lots
Oh,
of.
there's not a room for new things. I'm learning to play the piano now, and I'm pretty bad at
Oh,
it.
piano. How nice. How nice.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a guitar at the background, but I
There's a
think it's not
ukulele over
yours.
here, a guitar
Oh,
over here, and a piano
a
over
piano.
here.
Awesome. Awesome. So lots of things. Lots of things. Lydia, just to start, my question is, what is it like to speak at an event like MozCon, which is, by the way, huge congrats on that. It's awesome.
Thank you. MozCon is probably one of the most intimidating events that I've ever spoken at. This year was my second year. It was the second one in a row. And God, it's you do a speaker run through the day before, and they take you to the stage, and there's this guy. It's always the same guy. He's very nice. He doesn't work for MozCon, but for like the company that produces the event, because they hire like this massive event producer. So you arrive, and MozCon every year has a theme. Last year it was a camp, so it was meant to be like a summer camp, and you'd get like s'mores and like camping related foods. And this year it was the future. So we were in space.
Oh,
So we came into the
awesome.
room and it was lit up in like purple light and it was all neon and like there was like this hex no like a room like a this
Yeah.
twisted square in the middle
Yeah.
of the stage that was lit up and they had like the walkthrough is always like, okay, and you're going to walk in when the stage manager does this gesture. If they do this gesture, don't walk on. You need to leave the microphone here and the thing here. And remember to have a moment with the host. And you have to stand on this X to get the best light. Don't stand beyond this X. So it's like, oh my God, so overwhelming. Um, MozCon is very stressful because you can see that they've put so much work and effort in it. And you really, really, really want to deliver a great talk. And when you're in like MozCon, you know you're gonna be sharing the stage with like Aleida Solis or Lily Ray or Miracle in a Mentee, Crystal Carter. I shared the stage with Arish Abuli last year. Um, just they're just amazing people, big people, incredible content. So being there is an honor and trying to keep up and deliver on my end of the deal, which is like educate and entertain the attendees. Whoa, yeah, very,
N-
very nerve-wracking.
not easy probably, but also, and I'm sure they are saying, and being at the stage with Lidia Infante.
Yeah.
So That's
I know
the
there's people who say that, which is crazy for me.
yes. I'm sure. I'm sure that happens. But yes, on the other side, as a mere viewer, let's say, the event is huge. The speakers are huge, and I think I can't imagine uh, all the things that are like doing and creating and working in order to have everything set up perfectly and working and with new things year on year. So awesome. And yeah, I think it's a great event, and having you there and speaking in there, it must be awesome. Meaning 2 years in a row. Awesome.
Yeah, I was really, really honored when I was invited back.
Awesome. I'm sure. Lydia, just as a kickstart, one of the main things that I want to speak with you is about women in tech. Okay, and the question itself is, what's the current situation of women in tech or women in SEO, as you want? Yeah, can you tell me, please?
Okay. There's a situation that's explained by numbers. You can see it in the numbers. For example, I created a study on the gender gap in SEO publishing. And it's quite niche, you know. It doesn't tell the full story about women in SEO or women in tech because it speaks about what articles go live that are written by women in the SEO industry. So it focuses on a small set of publications initially. And then I analyze like who's published, what's their gender, and do they drive more, like, do women drive more traffic than men? Do their articles have more social engagement, or like all this kind of stuff? But this is only a product metric, right? There isn't a way to just tap into the minds of all SEOs in the whole industry and understand what women's perception in the industry is like. So I chose to go with publishing because publishing is an excellent way to build up your brand, and also it's a proxy metric of how prestigious you are viewed as. But it's got some bias in there. So, for example, it is known that women are less likely to pitch. There's like a bunch of psychological and sociological factors that play a role in this, but it's been studied that women are less likely to um, present themselves as experts or accept a speaking role because they don't see themselves as experts, while men with less qualifications would view themselves as experts. Um, And also, there's like how likely is your article to get accepted? Because a lot of the world of building your brand has a lot to do with connections, right? And there's people who have been in the industry with each other for many years who have that more established connection. So it is a little bit harder to break in as an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
So I performed like this little study, and the numbers that I got is that um, about 70% of all the articles that were published in 2022 were authored by men. Obviously, we have very prolific men. We all know, like Barry Schwartz.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce his name. Is it Roger Monti, I think? Oh my God, I feel
Uh,
so dumb. Now I don't know how to say his name.
no,
Okay.
I think it is.
Yeah, so I removed them from the data set to see
Mm-hmm.
if we were still having like a significantly increased or male biased numbers. And the numbers basically didn't change very much. I also tried to do the metric on a publication by publication basis, especially because, you know, it would be unfair to judge search engine journal
Yeah.
percentually when you take into account the amount of output by specific male authors. Um, so yeah, there's there's a lot of thought and data analysis that goes into this study. You can expect to see an update of this study next January. I'm going to be making this a yearly thing. What was interesting is that last year, it was actually women were actually a little bit more published than men. So I looked at two things: number of
Okay.
articles published and number of authors published. This year we have more women, but less articles published by women than last year.
Okay.
Last year we had less women, but they were more prolific than the current cohort in 2022. So it's been super interesting. I also noticed last year that women were more likely to drive traffic in publications that favor women. So, how do I explain this clearly?
Yeah.
One of them, there's like a big spreadsheet with like all tons of little numbers that I looked at. So, for example, each
Yeah.
publication, I measure the estimated organic traffic from SEMrush. Um, Measure the estimated organic traffic of each article through SEMrush, and I took into account the gender of the author and the publication. So,
Mm-hmm.
publications that favored women, like for example Moz or Wix, the women in those publications drive more organic traffic than publications that disfavor women, like for example Ahrefs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this can have to do with a series of things, right? It can be that the editor that's taking your pitches or assigning work to you is more likely to assign a better piece to men, or
Mm-hmm.
might be more inclined to heavily edit you if you're a woman, or
Oh.
demand a higher standard from the pieces if you're a woman. All of this is unconscious bias, right? Like we're not, nobody's
Yeah. Yeah.
here thinking, oh, you're a woman, therefore you're less smart. There is there's some pretty dumb people that unfortunately
Do
have
it.
the right to tweet. And
Yes.
I've been tweeted at that like women are biologically less inclined to do SEO, and I don't know exactly where in the human genome the SEO gene
Mm,
is, but I've not
yeah.
seen it.
Me neither.
Maybe we just need to do more science.
Yeah. Probably.
But yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. We have a bit of an old guard that's decided to take a bit of a step back from the public sphere. There's some people that are holding on for dear life to those speaking positions that they don't really need anymore. But there is an active engagement in the community to surpass and address these biases of like not only gender but race.
Mm-hmm.
And bring in new voices because we've already heard the old guard like say all the things, and I know I'm on all the podcasts and all the webinars and all the events, so we've heard me say a lot of things like I probably should also make space for others, and I'm trying to like recommend others for speaking slots that haven't maybe spoken in the past or need
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of a confident boost. But yeah, tons of things going on. Many organizations are doing an active effort to incorporate more women into their writing rosters. For example, I know
Mm-hmm.
that SEMrush is being actively involved in this. I know that Moz is, that Wix is. Um, Events are trying to bring up new speakers. For example, the Women
Mm-hmm.
in Tech SEO event. Um, the agenda is not public yet, and I don't actually have access to it. But
Mm-hmm.
there's no repeat speakers this year on the agenda.
Awesome.
And Brighton SEO is also favoring first-time speakers. So this all comes to mean we are walking in the right direction, even if we're not there yet. But I do
Awesome.
believe that we are going in the right direction.
Awesome. Awesome. And it's really good to hear that because one of the other things that I was about to ask you is what do you think this issue would look like will look like in for example from 5 years from now, and are we at least going in the right direction?
I think we are. I think 5 years from now, we are a lot more likely to see a more even split in speaker panels and in authorship of SEO material.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there is a lot of unconscious bias that can continue underlying, right? Because we're not going to just become a perfectly feminist industry in a
Mm-hmm.
patriarchal world. We're still going to be influenced by the wider socioeconomic
Yeah.
aspect of the world. We live in a
The world.
patriarchy. Yeah, it is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we are fighting to change it, but it's not going to just get solved in SEO, and we're going to live in feminist paradise. No,
The ideal world.
unfortunately, there is no Barbie land here. But I think the overt, evident, obvious metrics of
Mm-hmm.
um, equality are going to be kind of sorted. I've also noticed a trend of events being a lot more explicit within their code of conduct guidelines.
Okay.
Nobody used to want to speak about sexual assault or sexual abuse, which happens at SEO events, all events. It's not just our
Yeah.
industry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so defining, like addressing them and defining them exactly within the code of conduct guidelines can actually make women feel more protected. And I'm seeing this trend that this is getting incorporated. I do hope that it's going to be a lot less acceptable for a male boss or a boss to try to sleep with their employees, right? That's never
Mm-hmm.
going to be consensual or equitable.
Absolutely.
I hope that it is a bit like controversial, I guess, but here we are. If you're a speaker, you should not step off stage and then sleep with somebody because the power dynamics of that relationship are already like unbalanced. So,
Twisted. Yeah.
well, I'm obviously married, husband over there,
Yeah.
but as a speaker, I would not just go and enjoy everybody going like, "Oh my God, I love your talk," and there's an admiration and a bit of a
Mm-hmm.
power imbalance, and use that to actually get laid. It's kind of disgusting, so I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
do it. And I think we're going to come to an understanding of what is and isn't appropriate. It's not appropriate to ask an employee or another professional to sit in your lap. It's not appropriate to touch their hair. It's not
Mm-hmm.
appropriate to make a comment about their physical appearance. It's not appropriate to make advances on your coworkers or anyone who could be otherwise coerced. Anyone
Okay.
that could feel otherwise coerced in that environment. And I really think in 5 years, we're going to be a lot more aware of not doing this.
Okay. Okay. I'm glad. I think the same, like you said, but yeah, let's do everything as possible to go towards that goal. And very actionable here. My question is, what can we do all as an industry to get better at this? Ideally, for example, and I remember your article, your publishing article. For example, widening the pool, or for example, make your pitching process transparent. And I was wondering, what would look like a more transparent pitching process to you?
After being at the bottom of the list for a couple of years, Ahrefs kind of took the like read the memo, got the memo, and made a little bit of a change to their pitching process. So now all of their writers are paid, and you just pitch through a Google
Mhm.
form that anonymizes like your pitch. So the
Oh,
editor that's choosing your content doesn't get to see the gender of the person that's publishing it, right?
okay.
We are likely still going to see Ahrefs at the bottom of the list next year because they have a predominantly male leading team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, your internal team is creating content instead of having to pay external authors that you don't really know or aren't sure about. But I love the idea of a transparent pitching process going in that direction. I think also if you have a pool of writers that you work with
Mm.
and you're worried about gender bias, maybe open the list of pieces that you want to work on so that everybody can see it instead of just distributing it yourself. You can still
Okay.
actively distribute, but just
At least with visibility.
the effect of being seen might have you check your own biases. I think that's what that would look like. But I'm actually quite happy that Ahrefs made that change to the pitching process. There's also like, if you wanted to get published on the SEMrush blog or the Moz blog, how would you go about it, right? You don't really know. You probably know somebody at Moz or somebody at
Yeah.
SEMrush, or reach out on Twitter to somebody, but that requires like a little bit of connections that, as I was saying earlier, might be pre-established in one way or another by how long you've been in the industry, what friends you have in the industry. So yeah, that's how I would do it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, for those, let's say, those few that don't know women in tech, let's say groups or pages or etc. Um, where do you say that they could follow or read more about this?
So I would definitely follow the Women in Tech SEO Twitter account. If you're a woman in SEO, join the community because you're going to make a lot of friends and get a lot of support out of it. Definitely subscribe to the Women in Tech SEO newsletter because that's going to deliver the best 10-ish pieces of content written by women in that month. I used to have a Twitter thread that went out every Thursday with women in SEO content, but I have stopped doing that. I just can't deal with all of my tasks at once. I will bring it back eventually in some form or another. It might be a newsletter. I just think I don't want to be another marketer that launches another newsletter, but that might be me.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, go ahead. It's great content. I remember those threads. I used to read lots of them.
Yeah, and I feel like those threads got me learning about women in SEO as well, right? Because every Thursday I knew that I had to pull out these threads, and through my week I would stumble upon different pieces of content, and I would like pick up the content, put it in like a note app on my phone, and be like, okay, this is going out this week. And then on the Thursday I would dive into all of the publications that you see in my gender gap in SEO publishing study. I would go check out what Wix has published, what Moz has published, OnCrawl, Wixmoz, OnCrawl, SEMrush,
SEMrush.
Ahrefs, Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Land, and some other one that I might be forgetting. But yeah, I would just go in there, read them, and actually read everything written by women
Oof,
that week,
that's
right?
a that's a lot of learning at a
But there was
time.
so much. There really
Hmm.
was so much to read every week. And when I made threads of like the 14th best pieces of content, it's not because women have written 14. It's because I
Hmm.
couldn't choose
Yeah,
less than 14 that were amazing, right? So there's so much, and they're so smart and communicative and amazing. They're making amazing content, and if you're not reading Women in SEO, you're missing out. You're missing out on knowledge.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's a lot of content, and I happen to see what you're saying. You try to prune content and say, okay, I need to decide, and you can't. So it happens. It happens. Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, then later on in the notes for this episode, I'm going to put every link, every comment, every Twitter handle, sorry, X handle that you mentioned, and everything will be in there. Okay.
Awesome.
Um,
I hate that Twitter is now X. I just hate
yeah.
Elon Musk so much.
I keep telling it, or at least calling it Twitter. It was a simple joke. Twitter
Yes.
for forever.
When they do the domain migration, we might start calling it X. But for now, it's Twitter.
Exactly, exactly. It's always opening Twitter and the logo Twitter and everything. Lydia, this is a great topic, and I think we can keep talking about for a long time. But I
Forever.
wanted to, yeah, forever. But I wanted to jump to enterprise SEO. And I know you've been both in the agency side, meaning Rise at 7, and also probably other agencies or other workplaces, but also in the, let's say, in-house part, side, which is BigCommerce, which is Sanity. So
Yes.
my first question is, uh, how do you get buy-in? Okay, and this is one of the things that I've been already asking different people, both in-house and in the agency side. So how do you get buy-in when you try to propose an idea, a project, or something to different stakeholders? And as a quick note, if you want to perhaps make those side notes on, okay, in the agency side A and in-house B, for example.
Yes. So I wouldn't divide how to get buy-in between agency side or in-house side
Mhm.
because you've asked this question to other people. I think I'm gonna speak about what I think I have to say that's
Uh,
unique. instead of
Absolutely.
make a business case, measure your ROI. Like let's talk about what's in it.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
making decisions. We think that they are rational, but they're mostly emotional. Okay. It's human nature. All of us are essentially making emotional decisions all of the time. So, what I recommend is that you embrace that, right? You might have a perfect business case, you might have the best budget justification, but you might not know that your manager doesn't trust you, or you might not know that your manager has had a negative experience with link building in the past and they don't want to go in that direction. So you need to understand the people that you're dealing with more deeply. What I like to do, because you can't just be their therapist for 8 years and then do the project, I like to streamline this using archetypes. So there's this book called Surrounded by Idiots that divides
Okay.
people into four types of people. They're like the blues, the greens, the yellows, and the reds. Okay?
Okay.
Picture picture a square and you divide it
Mm-hmm.
in four. So now you've
Mm-hmm.
got like four squares. One of the axes that divide this square vertically would be task oriented or people oriented, right?
Yeah.
So in order to make that division, ask yourself, you have two ways of getting a project finished. Um, one way where it gets to the deadline, and one way where everybody is happy, right? So you can either meet your
Okay.
deadline, and some people in your team are going to be pissed off, or you can have everybody be very happy and nice, and not meet the deadline. So what would
Mm-hmm.
you choose?
Okay, so you're asking me, oh, and I think no grace in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think for everything to work properly in the long time, you need deadlines, but also you need people. No, I'm going with people. Let's say
Okay.
happy people.
All right. So we're going to put you into, you can either be a yellow or you can be a green. Okay. Um,
Okay.
I choose the deadline.
Okay.
for
Okay.
MYI, I choose the deadline. And now horizontally, we're going to divide the space into two. So how much data do you need to make a decision? Like, would you be confident making a decision only knowing 70% of what you could know, or do you want to know more? In
No.
another way to think about this, sorry, you're getting a new computer or a new electronic thingy. Do you read
Mm-hmm.
the instructions manual before you try to
No.
turn it on, or do you turn it
No.
on first?
Directly turn it on.
All right, so you would be a yellow, right? This is the
Okay.
typical profile of, for example, CEOs. These people
Okay.
are attracted to like bright, noble ideas. So if I was to sell you a project, I would probably talk to you about how innovative this project is and how creative it is and how much you wouldn't have to be involved in it. And look, all of our stakeholders are going to be so happy. You're going to make so many people happy, Jose. And that's how I would convince you.
Oh, this is huge. Meaning, I've never heard of that book and that theory. Let's say, and it's awesome. So
Yeah.
awesome, awesome,
So this is called
and
a disc profile, and many companies just like test their employees on the disc profile. Um, disc or DISA, people like call it different ways. I recommend you read the book. I recommend everybody read the book and
yeah.
classify your stakeholders using this idea. You have better ideas on how to classify them, but I like asking these two questions. And yeah, use this psychological archetype of your stakeholders to figure out how to best convince them.
This is great, and also just thinking of a lot of things, but I'm thinking of a few people, and I'm trying to think of okay, what would they do, and what would be the approach that I take in order to, let's say, get buy-in from them. So awesome, awesome, really,
Yeah.
really
So
like
I
it.
recommend everybody like at home just consider, would your boss prefer that you meet the deadline or that your
Mm-hmm.
stakeholders are happy? Would your boss read the instruction manual first or turn on the appliance first? And
Okay.
out of that, you'll figure out where your boss fits in into the disc profile, and you can start making more persuasive presentations based on what actually
Awesome.
excites them from an emotional side.
Awesome. Awesome. Really, really insightful. Yeah, definitely will read it. Um okay, definitely, for sure, I wasn't expecting this. Meaning, I was perhaps expecting, yeah, I don't know, start by the small project and then get the big one or something like that. But not this about colors. So awesome. That's a very unique way of yeah, answering.
I mean, everybody else can come in and tell you about business cases and incremental gains, but I think
Yeah,
this is one of the aspects in where my psychology background shines in my work,
definitely,
and
definitely.
it's being like extremely people oriented, which is strange because within the profile, I am on the less people oriented side of things. I'm like one of the most task oriented
That's
profiles.
uh, it's curious. It's curious. And yeah, then perhaps keeping up with the original idea of making a slight comparison, or at least trying to think of both sides, in agency and in-house. My questions are about your learnings. So
Yes.
what would be the most important lessons from for you, for example, working in an agency?
What I learned the most in agency was how to streamline and optimize my processes, right? Because the economics of agency work are you're essentially selling time. The only way to scale is to get in more people so you have more time to sell at a markup, right? Once you understand that, you can scale either by selling more time or by actually getting more efficient with your time in a way that you can do more and sell more on a project basis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so if you consider that that would be what helps an agency scale and succeed, it is obvious that you need to focus on creating repeatable processes that are easy to teach to your team, resources that your team can constantly reuse, and you can apply with some level of personalization to all of your clients. And I think what distinguishes a premium agency from a more budget agency is the level of personalization that you're going to offer on your repeatable processes. Because every agency is giving you repeatable processes and templates. Like,
Yeah.
to be clear, everybody has a template and they go through the same with every client. It depends how much time they're going to dedicate to understanding the uniqueness of you and your business and personalizing the output of their templates. So, streamlining those processes and creating effective templates is very important when you're agency side. Also, training, being good at training new people that are coming in to execute at the level that you want on those processes that you've created is super, super essential. Um, so I would say, yeah, when you're, and that's the biggest difference for me, right? So when you're agency side and you have to respond to the needs of your business and your business is the agency, you work on repeatability and processes. And then the responsibility of selling these bigger processes is more on your on the advocate that you have on the client side. Now, a more premium agency is going to partner with this advocate, with you, and help you sell internally these projects. A less premium agency is going to be a lot more hands off, give you the deliverable, and wash their hands of it.
Yeah.
When you're in house, your business, the business that you're responding to, is the end client, right? So
Okay.
you cannot wash your hands of anything. You have a lot more ownership. You also have a lot more time because you're a lot less disposable. You're a lot less swappable. They're not gonna fire you because you didn't deliver results in 3 months, right?
Yeah.
And if they do, like fuck them. It's probably illegal in most countries
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, You have a lot more time to personalize. You don't need to focus on repeatability and processes. You go on to the extremely tailored end of things. You need to invest a lot more in building relationships internally because that investment is going to pay off for a lot longer. Building relationships with your client's team when you're an agency helps you sell. Um,
Yeah.
but the ROI of those relationships is not going to be a 10-year working relationship, right? Or a
Mm-hmm.
5-year working relationship. I think the average time that clients stay with an agency is somewhere between 12 to 18 months. I saw a stat like this in the UK.
Okay.
Um, Obviously, the investment pays up a lot less. So invest more in relationships, tailor more when you're in house. When you're not in house, repeatability. And also, if you're agency side and you have like big ambitions, learn, spend all of this time just learning about all of the businesses and verticals that you're working with because it's freaking beautiful. And you're going
It
to be
is.
able to test your strategies across different verticals. I love agency side. I think it's a great way to grow your career.
It is. It is. As a personal comment here, I think what agencies gives you it's exercise and speed, because, for example, at the morning you are, I don't know, talking with a rental car company. Then in the evening you are talking about, I don't know, hotels. Then food. Then electronics. So you have like a huge variety of things, and you start learning things that in a way you kind of apply in other industries, and you get creative. So it's pretty good in that way.
I absolutely agree. I really like the agency life for that. I have a lot of love for the only agency I've been in is Rise and Seven. I was
Hmm.
there for quite a bit and I have a lot of love for that experience.
Awesome, awesome. And once again, quick comment. Rise at 7 is a massive agency, meaning they are doing everything in a in the best way. They excel at everything. They are opening up offices in the US recently, so they are doing great things. Um, and quick question to wrap up the idea. Thinking only on the agency side, okay? Do you prefer more like premium and, let's say, more tailored solutions or for clients, or more like a very strict budgeted agency in which it's okay, we are giving you ABC, this checklist, probably cheaper, and so on? What do you prefer?
I I think I would really enjoy creating the workflows and processes for a more budget agency. But when it
Okay.
comes to actually executing, I would probably enjoy the premium. But if I could only choose one, I would spend 1 year in a budget agency setting up all of their search strategy processes.
Oh, okay. So if anyone's looking for help, uh, then they are going to know that you are interested in that. Awesome, awesome. Wasn't expecting that answer either. I was perhaps thinking of more like offering the premium solution because you know a lot, and I think there's a lot of value in there. But yeah,
I mean, as
it's.
a professional, I think the thing that would help me grow the most is having to scale processes, right?
Mhm.
I find it more interesting, a challenge, as a growth challenge for myself, because I know I can offer premiums. Like that's just my job, like that would be just work. I am in the house. I already do the premium mega tailored
Yeah,
thing. I've been
yeah.
in house most of my career, so I've done the premium mega tailored thing. And when I was agency side, I started doing some of the standardization of processes. And if you look at the type of talks that I give, I love creating standardization templates. I love creating checklists. I think it's an excellent way to share knowledge. And yeah, as a personal professional challenge, I find that fun.
Awesome, awesome. It's really good, Lydia. Um, awesome. Then I just wanted to ask like a final question here, which is I happen to relate speaking at events, okay, that it helps the SEO industry because knowledge, everyone gets more knowledge, the industry gets more mature, meaning more data, more examples, more faces. What do you think about it? And also as a secondary question is that one of the reasons why you speak at an event? Um, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel super passionately about this. One of my favorite things about the SEO industry is the fact that we're building it together, and it requires a certain level of altruism to do it, right? So we could keep the knowledge to ourselves, like we could make like secret little groups where we share the knowledge with each other. Um, but that takes us nowhere, right? Like those little secret knowledge groups are going to be much more close of, and they're not as enriching as just openly sharing your knowledge. If I share my templates, I don't usually hold anything back. I don't make them worse before sharing them in public. I want to put them out in public, and if you have a way to improve them, show me, and then I'll improve myself. Like we will improve each
So,
other constantly all the time. The fact that there's some people that are making excellent data resources and data-led research. Well, I'm not a data scientist. I wouldn't be able to do this
mhm.
on my own. So because it's collaborative is one of my favorite things. I love going to events and learning about things that I didn't know, even if I don't plan on directly applying them. They just make this little internal latent knowledge that might surface later on when I'm facing a new challenge. So I find it super fun and just I remember my first time ever speaking in person in a stage was at Brighton
Mhm.
SEO a few years ago, and I was terrified. I was so nervous because I was wondering, am I going to sound smart? Are people going to be able to understand my accent? Um,
Mm.
I was really really scared, and then I remembered my first time at Brighton SEO. It was my first ever conference, SEO conference. The joy, the excitement, how hungry I was to learn from everybody, how I would look to these experts on stage and just drink from their knowledge. How excited, like I was excited for months leading up to Brighton SEO. I was looking at the schedule. I had downloaded the app. I knew everybody like who was going. I had followed all the speakers on Twitter and LinkedIn. I thought of myself so excited, so happy to be there. And I thought, what is like if that version of me wasn't in the audience, what could I give her, right? And how do I give
Okay.
the audience that are sitting here today, who are excited, who are happy, who are looking for my knowledge, how do I give them that? So it stops being about me, about whether my accent is easy to understand, it stops being about whether or not I look smart. It starts being about what I give the audience. Are they learning? Are they having fun? Where are all of their hopes and dreams of coming to Brighton SEO coming true? Are they going to be better professionals after this? Can I help them impress their bosses? That is what matters to me when I am on stage.
It's beautiful how you're saying it, meaning it's not about you anymore. It's about the value you offer, let's say, without any price, without any intent to others. It's beautiful, and I can now that we're speaking, I'm seeing the joy and the excitement. It's really beautiful, and I think this is one of the reasons why you are such a great speaker. Meaning, if you didn't care that much, okay, yeah, I'm going to speak at an event, yeah, 25 slides, yeah, I'm going to talk about ABC. That's it. You're not going to uh, be really there. So beautiful, for real, for real.
Yeah. I also think
Um,
I don't know if you're there, just be yourself because I don't want to be cliche and be like, oh, nobody else can be you. But like, what do you want? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna put on a suit and look like someone you're not and speak all
mhm.
professional and try to project an image? That's boring. Everybody else is doing that. You
Yeah.
probably have something more interesting to say. You probably have a tone of voice and a way of saying things and an expressivity that others aren't gonna have. So just go and actually be yourself. And then if you make yourself known on stage, you're also going to make more genuine connections off stage. If people
Mm-hmm.
know that you are approachable,
Europe.
like you're just a person, you're not like an SEO celebrity.
Yeah, absolutely. I it's funny. I saw your presentation in your last MozCon event in the last MozCon event, and I saw, for example, the different memes and the. I laughed out loud for the images of Barry Schwartz when he started, and now it was great, and I
He looks
haven't.
so young.
Yeah, he does. He does. But also, I was trying to imagine the scenario, meaning everyone in there happens to know Barry. So I was thinking, okay, perhaps probably everyone was laughing at that moment when you showed the images. It was awesome. And yeah, that's a way of being unique, meaning memes in a presentation for a few thousand people. So
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I think it's
Awesome.
easier to educate if you're also entertaining. So
It is.
some people know this, many people know this. I tweeted about this, but my husband bought me a stand-up comedy course last Christmas.
Mm,
So I went on a 2-month course learning how to do stand-up comedy.
yeah.
And I learned this because I wanted to be funnier, because if I'm funnier, I'm a more effective educator, right? And I actually did
Okay.
a
Okay.
stand-up
And how?
stand-up comedy session on
Yeah.
stage.
And how did it go?
It went
Did
really well. Some people laughed. I have heard that if the audience was a little less male dominated, they would have laughed more. It was it was a comedy session about my romantic life. Well,
oh.
it was a comedy session. It was a comedy show about my sex life before my husband existed. So
Okay.
yeah, I feel like it was relatable to many women. Probably the men didn't enjoy it as much.
So you did stand up talking about your sex life, right?
Yes, it's on YouTube, by the way. If you want to link it in the notes,
The question is, do you
or
want?
maybe not.
If you want, we can link it. I know people are going to have a great time in there, but you tell me.
We can link
Uh,
it if you want.
uh, awesome.
It's already
Yeah,
public.
definitely. Awesome. Awesome. We'll do it. I'm going to reassure that it will be there. Awesome. Awesome. And let's say wrapping up the idea of speaking at events, what would be the piece of advice that you would give to someone starting starting in that path?
I would say if you're in Europe or in the UK, pitch to Brighton SEO right now. Pause the podcast, go on their website or on their socials. It's usually on their socials somewhere. Maybe we'll put it on the show notes. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Pitch an idea. Okay, you might think I have nothing new to say. I think I have nothing new to say all the time.
Oh,
And I go on stage and think, this is very basic. I'm sounding stupid. But turns out you've probably faced a challenge recently that somebody would like to hear about. You probably have a way of solving a problem, a way of doing keyword research, a way of analyzing content performance that somebody would love to hear about. Um, Even if it sounds basic to you, remember when you were new in the industry and you went to your first conference, that would not have seemed basic to you back then. So turn a problem that you've solved recently or a methodology you've created recently into a talk. Pitch it to either Brighton SEO or your local small community if that makes you feel more comfortable, and just
mm-hmm.
give it a try if that's something that you want to do. That said, being a speaker in the industry doesn't actually measure how good an SEO you are. It is good for your career, it's good for your brand, and you can leverage it, especially if your agency side, because a lot of agencies get sales from people being able to speak at events. So you're going to be able to grow your career faster. Um, But if you are not an extrovert or you're not a person that enjoys public speaking, it is not necessarily better than writing a blog post or sharing your knowledge in other ways. And it's still not a measure of how good an SEO you are. But if you're an amazing SEO, we want to hear from you. So start writing, start speaking, share your knowledge.
Awesome, awesome. New faces, new people.
Yes.
Awesome, awesome. Great, great. Thanks for that, Lydia. And for the last the last topic that I want to talk with you is about headless CMS. And once again, I know you're an expert, so want to tell me a little bit about it, about the idea, the concept?
Yeah, sure. So most people listening to this are familiar with WordPress, right?
Mm-hmm.
WordPress is what's known as a traditional CMS or a monolithic CMS. How that works is you've got imagine a little robot, okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Imagine a robot, and the legs would be kind of like the database. Your content standing on the database, your content stored there. Then you've got the admin layer, right? So the admin layer is the panel when you're going on WordPress to edit a post or a page. It's how you interact with your content and prepare it for presentation. And then you've got the presentation, which has typically been a website, right? That's your presentation layer. A headless CMS is the same robot but without a head. Not because we don't want a presentation layer, but because we want many presentation layers. You've worked on the content so hard, it should be able to go omni-channel onto any surface without you having to maintain several databases of the same content. I think a lot of people will relate when I say like, don't you hate it when you update the price of a product and you have to go and update it on your blog post, on the app, on your e-commerce surface? Imagine if you could insert the price as a variable even in your long form content. You only have to update it once. You don't need to remember to update your content on every surface. The surfaces are pulling from a centralized source of truth. That's kind
Okay.
of the value proposition of headless CMSs, right? Instead of having your content tied to a presentation layer, we free up the content to be able to be delivered to any presentation layer. Like, I don't know, there was this lady who, this was a meme on TikTok a while back. Um, Her mom took her phone because she was misbehaving or something, and she learned to make her fridge tweet. So imagine if this lady wanted to access your content on her fridge
Yeah.
with a headless CMS. She probably could. You could probably prepare your content to be displayed on the screens of a smart
Uh,
fridge.
yeah, I remember. I saw it. I saw it. She
That
was
was so
tweeting
funny.
like in a huge screen. Yeah.
I swear teenagers are so clever and
You
creative.
know, you know why? Because they are lazy. They are trying to find the ways of doing something, and they get to the goal.
No, I
Awesome.
relate. I'm mega lazy. So like 10 out of 10 to these teenagers. Good for them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's a quote from Leo Piccioli. He's a public speaker, a writer, and many other things here in Argentina. And he says, the future is for the lazies." So yeah, that's the idea. That's the
10
idea.
out of 10.
Yeah, definitely. And okay, that's a clear way of understanding what is a headless CMS. Next step is which are the main benefits, let's say, of a CMS, and you mentioned several of them. For example, having everything in a, let's say, centralized, because you or perhaps being able to integrate many things. So which are those benefits?
Yeah, I would say the centralization is a main benefit for me. Um, there's, even though we see some websites happening, how do I explain this? There's websites that happen from the same source of truth, even though they're different websites, right? So,
Okay.
like, a shoe store that's a budget shoe store and a premium shoe store could be owned by the same company and
Mhm.
connected to the same inventory system and CMS and just present with different brand
Mhm.
values, brand design. It could have different shipping conditions or a different loyalty program. Um, because again, we're not
Oh.
really making rational decisions, we're making emotional decisions. So purchasing decisions are usually have a lot more to do with ego and status than they do with like a rational thought of pros and cons
Yeah.
list. We'll usually write a pros and cons list when we want to justify the emotional decision that we're making, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of like multi-tenant databases that go displayed into multiple surfaces. So you could do that if you had a multi-brand approach. If you are doing internationalization, it works quite similarly. You can have your core content in a
Mm.
central source of truth and have it all automatically updated, um, either inserting variables or by plugging into a translation management system through an API, and then establishing rules as to what happens when you change the source content, what happens to the translated content. You can connect more than one system. So, for example, my husband and I were working on a homemade app. You heard about
Okay.
it because I explained it at MozCon, but
Mm-hmm.
it's an app to build ourselves grocery list because we don't want to have to invent a database for recipes or for ingredients. You can
Mm-hmm.
just plug the database onto your CMS. Just import the data in, or instead of importing it, you can connect it so that it stays up to date with whatever source of truth you're deciding. Imagine doing that with a logistics business or an e-commerce business with a very volatile stock, right? Just connecting systems together is it's actually what WordPress was initially trying to do with plugins.
Mm-hmm.
The limitation of the monolithic CMS is kind of like patched with plugins, but it's not a
Yeah.
solution. It's not a feature. It's just a patch. While composability becomes a feature in API-based CMSs.
Okay. Okay. Very, very, very clear. Once again, thanks for the explanation. And here my question, a little bit more actionable, is as a business owner, manager, or whatever the title is, when do you start realizing that your CMS is stating stating small, for example, and that you
Yes.
need a more I don't know if complex, but more solid and robust solution like Headless CMS?
As a business owner, it's going to be when you try to do something or your team tries to do something and you start hearing, oh, we can't do it because the CMS won't let us. Oh, we can't do this because there's an issue with the CMS. Oh, yeah, the translation is broken because there was a problem with the CMS. That's how, as a business owner, you're going to start perceiving that. You might notice, for example, if instead of a business owner, you're a CMO, that your content velocity diminishes. So your content managers are either finding that they start to need development resources to publish things, or that some layers of complexity have appeared as you have grown that slow your content marketers down. Then you can notice it because of the reduced content velocity. As a technology leader, for example, if you're a CTO or an engineering manager, you might notice that your development team gets frustrated because a lot of their time gets pulled towards helping the content team with stuff. A lot of their time gets pulled towards solving SEO tickets that they don't think are valuable. Um, or they start quitting because you make them work on WordPress and they have to code in PHP and they don't want to code in PHP. They want to be using a modern framework. And I've actually spoke with a client who saw a positive ROI in moving from a, and this is a very extreme example, of course, but
Yeah.
she saw a positive ROI in moving from monolithic CMS
Mm-hmm.
to headless CMS, because the headless CMS meant more developer talent retention. That's crazy if you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
Just from the money that she was saving by not having to pay a recruiter to replace her development team every 2 years, right? Or
Yeah,
by the money saved in the efficiency of already having a senior team that knows their specific systems. Crazy.
yeah, it is. It is. And a great hint, because perhaps sometimes or someday you can highlight this as a potential use case in, okay, it's not only the ROI that you're going to get because of X, Y, and Z, but because of this. So
Yeah, because engineers are gonna stop quitting.
yeah, exactly, which is a common problem. Awesome. Yeah, very useful. I think we shouldn't go that deep into headless CMS, but it's a very robust solution, and I think scalability, it's one of the most important things here, because it allows you to scale things when the
Yeah,
technology is like slowing you, right?
I think if you envision, because headless is not always going to be the right one for you. If you have a little shop in a town and you just want web presence, by all means, like go on WordPress with Shopify, or can you do that or go on Shopify, right? And
Yeah,
have your little store and enjoy your little store. It's gonna be amazing. But
yeah,
if you envision your business needing more composability in the future, like if you envision plugging in a database, if you envision plugging in um, an ERP software, a shipping software, and an e-commerce software, um, it might be more expensive for you to set it up right now, but you are going to save a ton of money not having to migrate in a little bit
yeah,
of like in a couple of years. So the
yeah.
scalability is there. Um, you might also be able to scale without a headless solution, because I don't focus so much on traditional solutions. I'm having a hard time thinking of that. But if you're publishing or planning on going international or planning on
Mhm.
interconnectedness, yeah, you probably prefer a headless solution.
Awesome. Yeah, as a funny thing, recently I saw a website that they are working with. They are shipping internationally. They have yeah, D2C products, and for the US they are selling in US dollars. For Canada they are selling in Canadian dollar, and for the rest of the world in euros. So they have like three subdomains. Sorry, two subdomains and the main website, which are Canada slash dot the domain, international dot the domain, and the one of the US. And they have the very exact website with all the blog posts and everything, 3 times, everything, but no href tags, no internationalization, no anything. They are like three websites, exact websites, and they only change the 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 amount of the price. And
Yeah.
it's funny, and they have like a few thousand products. They are then I'm going to tell you, they are like a pretty well-known brand, so they should definitely need something like this, headless CMS.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Strange things happening in there when you start seeing. Well, Lydia, I have more questions, but that will be all for now. Uh, what I do want to ask you is, what's next for Lydia?
Oh, wow. I don't know. For the person Lydia, I'm moving soon, and I'm very excited to decorate my new flat.
Okay.
And probably having babies soon. Hello, announcement.
Oh,
No, I'm not
yeah.
pregnant, but
Ah.
um, I have a bucket list of things that I want to do before I'm pregnant. And the last thing to take off, well, the last two things to take off is fly internationally in first class and go to Japan. And you cannot eat
Oh,
sushi pregnant. So
okay.
we booked. an international first class flight to Japan for the summer. That means bucket list is ticked off. My flat has
Yeah.
an extra room for the baby. So, hello,
Awesome.
nobody cares about this, but I've told you
No, no,
anyway.
no. Absolutely.
And then
Awesome.
professionally, I don't know. I think I've been focusing a lot on content innovation. So the combination of AI and new content formats, content distribution, and content repurposing is something that I'm really, really enjoying on working on. I love editorial work. I love working with my pool of writers, and I am quite excited to try and find an opportunity to help women more in the industry. So whatever happens, that's the theme for the next couple of years.
Awesome.
Content
Awesome.
innovation, AI, distribution, repurposing, and women.
And women. Not simple at all. So you are going to have lots of things to read and work on. Awesome. Awesome. And also a comment on the on the personal update that you gave. That's a great way of wrapping up the year, meaning first class to Japan. Awesome.
I know I've never been first class or business class or anything. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me neither. Awesome, awesome. Well, hope you enjoyed that. You are definitely going to. And lastly, where can people reach out to you?
Of course. So I'm at Lidia Infante M at most social media. Easy to find. If you Google Lidia Infante, I have a knowledge panel now. But
Oh,
you can
how
see me.
fancy!
I know, I was like really excited when I saw it. You
Yeah,
can find me usually tweeting on Twitter or X,
yeah.
LinkedIn, and I have a website where I post some of the cool little studies that I do, lydia-infante.com.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm once again I'm going to give and yeah to give all the URLs, all the social media accounts in the show notes. Okay. Well,
Awesome.
Lydia, it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed talking with you. So yeah, I'm really happy.
Likewise, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, let's talk soon. Thanks, Lydia. Bye
All right,
bye.
bye.
Bye bye.